I was naturally taught that when you exercise, you of course connect your breathing to the movement. So it's like, as you, in this case, let's say I'm doing a bench press, as I am bringing the bar down to my chest, it's like the inhale motion. So it's like as you get there, then you exhale and push it out. And so naturally that's what I've done and that's what I've taught people. But to think like being in a position where you're controlling your breathing and not breathing, but also being able to get, outputs that are effective, not just to lift the most weight, but in the development of what's going on in your body as a result from doing that bench press. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
Like, I'm very excited to pursue that now. That's like, oh my God, this is gonna be so much fun. And then, like we said, it's gonna create content for us, for everybody. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, there's this type of training, and I don't quite remember what it's called, but I can describe what it does. It's like you kind of tie off the end of your like appendage or limb, I guess, and then you pretty much restrict the blood flow as you do that exercise, and you won't do nearly as many reps, to my knowledge, and you kind of fatigue out relatively quick, but you get stronger. You get stronger faster.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And I definitely want to go back and look at the research on that, because I remember someone was talking to me about it in like 2019, and I was just like, and he was coming from the perspective of, think about the older generation, right? They don't have time to go to the gym and be there for an hour and a half, nor do they want to. Their bodies can't even sustain that kind of training at their age. But what if they're still able to strengthen their muscles, and they're doing it by just restricting the blood flow, going through a quick 20-minute workout, because they're not going to be in there for long, and now they're sustainably building strength for the remainder of their lives, so that their quality of life can be decent as they get into retirement. Because that's real right now. A lot of people are going to be retiring right now, and based on the habits they've been practicing up until this point, is going to significantly influence the quality of this retirement. Not even just talking about financially, because that's also important too, but it's just yeah, like, what is your quality of life going to be? Which, I mean, that's definitely, and that's something we talk about. I know. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
welcome to the show. Yeah, we was having a conversation prior, so I thought it would be interesting, and I think beneficial to bring some of the natural conversations that we have to the show. But welcome to episode 118 of the Balance Period podcast, the show where we inspire and empower you to be the best emotionally intelligent example you can be for our next generation. I am one of your hosts, Recovery Ray.
And the Bald Sage. And hey, so I had an idea while you was talking a little bit earlier, and it is, so what happens if, you become a better master at the holding your breath while you're working out, like taking less breaths, and you restrict the blood flow. Now, there's a high chance you're going to pass out. I'm 100% sure. But once you get past that, who knows what you're capable of? Like, we're going to experiment. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I definitely want to look at the science behind both. And then if, like, just, just taking those pieces of information, say, is this something that would be beneficial or not? And then I would definitely try it. I'm down to pretty much try anything if I think it's going to be beneficial to my experience and ultimately other people's experience. So we'll see. We'll see what it stacks up to.
I think people just got a good taste of our personalities too, like us, like how we mesh together. Because I'm just like, yo, I got this idea, and I think if we try these two together, something could happen. And then you like, yes, let's look at the science of it first. And so now y'all see how I'm still alive, because I have such a good brother right here who will say, let me look at the science first before I decide to jump in and cut off the circulation to my blood while I hold my breath while lifting.
Yeah, and just as a little bit of a reflective piece, this is our mindful reflection of the month. So it's the mindful reflection of the month of June. But just to take it even further back to when we were kids, Nick was definitely the one that was more adventurous physically. Like, he would jump off stuff, he would jump over stuff, he would jump off the swings, he would do things, and I was the cautious one, to where I was like, I kind of needed more information. And this information from my perspective now was, can I do this? Like, I see him doing it, it's like, can I physically do that? Like, I don't know. So it actually would speak a little bit to the belief I had in my ability to succeed at that young age. It's, in my opinion, it definitely has evolved to where it is now, but it was something that I don't know. So I was timid. And you know what? The interesting part, I'm glad I remember this. In that timidity, if that's a word, hopefully it is, I would generally hurt myself more than Nick would hurt himself because I would hesitate before I would do stuff. And it would lead me to trying to jump over a fence and landing, split leg over the fence because I hesitated. Nick just jumped right over, so I'm going to keep that in mind as I continue to live because who knows, maybe some of the things that I notice about myself. Now, I'm grateful that I've become self-aware over these last few years and have made adjustments, but there's definitely still room for me to grow. So that is one of the benefits of reflections and why we do these mindful reflections on a monthly basis. It's because when you reflect and when you are able to mindfully reflect, right, to maintain that perspective where you're not judging yourself, you're just observing where you've been, then you're able to recognize patterns. And when you recognize patterns, you can make more informed decisions today on how you choose to spend your time so that you can be that best emotionally intelligent example you can be, not only for yourself, but for any other person that gets an opportunity to interact with you. So that's the value behind mindfully reflecting in general. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the month of June. So Nick, what was June like for you?
Man, June has been great. I had just come up on a year-long journey that I had started back in last June. That was around the time you asked me to join Balance Period, and I was going through transitions in life. And I had got out of working out in the gym, and I really just wanted to focus on cultivating my mind. Like, I wanted to create mental fortitude. I wanted to create the person that I wanted to be. I wasn't sure how to do it. I wasn't sure what direction it would take me. But I was like, I want to see what I can do in a year. And right now, it's pretty much landing at that year mark. And it has been an amazing journey. And it's been a big journey. And self-reflection has been pretty much the foundation of everything. Because without me non-judgmentally looking at the patterns and the things that I do, I wouldn't have had the acceptance to be able to hold myself accountable as I made these changes within my life or within my mental. And that has been something that has been very beneficial. And I would say one of the biggest ones has been my relationship with fear. Like, my relationship with fear has changed immensely to now it's one of my favorite parts of my emotional guidance system, is that when I feel something and I feel fear, now I'll say fear and danger, two different things. Mm-hmm. But when I feel fear, I lean into it now. That's telling me something that, oh, hey, there's something right here that you're resistant to. You go ahead and grow some over here. And it's like, bet, I get to go do that. And that just changed my whole perspective on life in itself. And it gave me freedom. It's dope.
Wow. Yeah, man, I know personally in my journey, the moment that I was able to redefine my relationship with fear was definitely pivotal, and it was transformational. I would say it was one of those moments where, like, my life has definitely never been the same since I made that decision and commitment to one moment. Let me go get Milo.
We got kids, it'd be like that.
Milo.
It's not gonna work, buddy. What else am I supposed to do, Dad? Gotta give him treats.
All right, I'm back. There's someone here that is about to take a look at our roof. So Milo was he wasn't having it.
Look, bro. Look. You ain't met Dad yet, so you can't come in here
yet. No, he's standing up at the window just barking. I'm like, bro, you can't do that, bro. All right. But yeah, no, the moment that I made that commitment to say, hey, I am now going to respond to fear differently, just completely changed the experience that I had in life, because I experienced it so often, and I didn't even realize how much I experienced it because it just became second nature. And in that second nature, I was not courageous generally, right? I would fall into that, as I talk about often, I freeze or I like flee. I'm one of the two. And so I'm like, wow, there's so many areas of life that I can now experience that I didn't experience before, all because I made one change, which was adjusting and taking accountability for how I chose to respond to fear. So yeah, that's really dope.
Yeah, and I would say that going into that realm allowed me to start asking the question why. And that's been like huge. It's like, okay, so why is there fear with this? Why am I doing this? Why? And when you ask why, answers come. Like, I could just speak from experience. Like, when I ask why, it might not be that moment or that day, but at some point I have like this aha moment, like, oh my goodness, that's it. I could be watching a cartoon show and they show something on there and I'm like, oh, that was it. Like, oh, that makes sense. But yeah. That's just the journey of
Facts.
life.
And that's the value of mindfulness and of maintaining that positive present perspective that we talk about. Because when we are in that mode of living, in that awareness without judgment, then we're able to notice the answers to those questions that we ask. We can notice them anywhere. Like, I was just with a friend of mine last week from home, shout out to Dio, but he has a daughter, and I met her for the first time. And I'm sitting here looking at this little girl, learning stuff about myself from observing a child just live. And I'm just like, wow, if I was worried about things that happened in my past or about things that could happen in the future, I would be unable to notice these things and understand these certain things in this moment that I'm noticing right now by just playing, with a child. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's powerful. It's powerful to keep that mindful perspective. And that's what we talk about all the time on the show, like, because that's how important it is. If you just do that one thing, just increase your level of mindfulness and build your mindfulness muscle, it's going to take time and consistency, but your life will change and you will gain a deeper understanding for the full worth of the life that you get an opportunity to live. So, yeah. Well, so let's see. June for me, it was filled with quite a bit. As we were talking about in the last one, in the last mindful reflection, it was coming off of the completion of our pilot program. And so we had meetings scheduled throughout the month with our business mentors and the other people that are a part of our team that pretty much just help us continue to put ourselves in the right position to grow as a business and as a company. And I'm grateful for those relationships that we've built. As I said last time, my focus primarily had been on balance, period. So that's what the month started with. And as the month progressed, my birthday fell. My birthday fell on the 16th. So shout out to Tupac. We share the same birthday, by the way. But aside from that, it was then a shift of my perspective from solely balance, period, to then saying, okay, what's going on with you, bro? Like, this is your day. So it was interesting having a day in that month that was designed just for me. And, for naturally, and my dad will say that I get this from him, which I agree. But I was just like, honestly, it's just another day. Like, in my mind, I'm just like, I'm going to sit, I'm going to work, I'm going to go through my same morning routine. I'm going to do the things that I normally do. It just so happened to be that this is when I was born 28 years ago. But aside from that, I enjoyed the experience of reflecting. So that was what then my perspective transformed, I guess. Yeah. Transitioned into was just reflection. And so I know I had heard this before, but they were like every 7 years you get all new cells and things like that. I looked it up, and that's not 100% accurate, but there is a connection between 7 and like completion and your body regenerating cells. So it was interesting to be in that space where I'm like, wow, like I've been through this now 7 times. And this is what I've learned so far. This is where I currently am mentally, physically, emotionally, financially with my relationships. Like, and now I have the awareness that I have. What can I do for the next 7? Right? Like, it's interesting. It's interesting. So that is what I have been thinking about. That is what I've been aligning my habits with. I know one of the things that I learned, and I'm continuing to learn, as I am focusing my energy on the energy management space, because that's what I'm passionate about, and that's where my genius lies, in managing energy and how we do that effectively. And so for me, it's understanding that as I get better at what I do, which is something that I've invested energy into for years now, I'm going to be offered opportunities all the time. And so now it's figuring out which opportunities am I going to take and put my energy into, or which ones, even if they sound great, am I going to say, you know what, that isn't something that I can do right now with my time and energy. So I'm learning about that now, and I'm going to continue to keep that at the forefront of my mind as we go into, the months to come. But that is going to be, I think, where I'm going to see the most action. I'm going to be getting a lot more opportunities, and I'm grateful that I'm aware of the value of my time, because with that awareness, I think I'm going to be able to make more informed decisions in that space. So, we'll see how it goes, but yeah, so that's how June has been. It started out really focusing on balance period. And then, as the month has progressed, it's transitioned into being more introspective and more reflective. And now I'm able to more intentionally plan for my future and for my family's future and for, the future of the company and all those good things. So Nick, what, or did you have anything that you wanted to say?
I was gonna bring everybody's attention to the fact that when you look at what Ray's been doing, he's been following his passion, like what ignites him, what makes him happy, like the things that he enjoys. And when you follow that, doors begin to open. I know a lot of us focus on our income and finances and things like that, but things will come. And one of my favorite mantras is everything will work out perfectly. And I know when I talk about that mental cultivation I did over that year, one of the biggest things that I did was to let go of my attachment to material things and understanding that they will come and they will go. One of the examples that I use is if you had $100 million and you lost it all for 2 years and was living under a bridge, but then you made or found a lottery ticket and somehow got all this money back, what would those 2 years mean to you at that time? Mm-hmm. For a lot of people, they would say, a lot of people might not even make it through those 2 years. But then someone else might and be like, that was not like, okay, cool, I'm better now. But then wouldn't that mean that money is your God and you missed out on this part of the journey, which you could have made into anything that you wanted to make it? And that really had changed my perspective on it all, to where it was like, there's so much more to this and everything else will come. And so, and I think that's what, when I recognized what my purpose was, or at least what I identified it to be, which was, it was twofold. It was be present. And I was like, okay. And then it was, and be yourself. That one was a little bit more ambiguous, but the be present part was pretty straightforward. It was like, maintain a present perspective. That's why we talk about breathing and mindfulness and things, because that is a key. That's a key to experiencing the fullness of life in general. And so with that, though, comes with what we were talking about before, fear. Because most times when we're afraid of something, let's think about our perspective, we turn and look away from it. So we're not mindful of that thing because we're turning and we're not paying attention to it. So in that being mindful, you're going to be faced with a lot of fear, because now you're looking at areas of your life that you, up until that point, did not want to spend time looking at. Naturally, because you would judge yourself based on what you saw. And at least that's how it worked in my experience. So that's why, for me, it's really interesting, right? Because the work wasn't necessarily physical work that I've done to this point. And that's not the work that we even talk about in this show. It's going to take effort. It takes, as we talked about before many times, it takes effort to make change. It takes effort to transform your perspective and your life in general. And so that effort is required internally. It's required mentally. And that's why building mindfulness helps with that discipline, because a discipline is necessary in order for you to make those changes and adopt those habits and cultivate the new empowering perspective that will empower you to be the best you that you can be on a moment-to-moment basis, and believe that you are whole and that you are enough and that you can experience peace and joy regardless of what's happening outside of your control. So yeah, I just wanted to make that connection, because that's where the fear lied in my experience. And if someone is listening, if you resonate with that,
that's literally all that me saying that was for. I hope you did.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so let's think about moving forward, right? We've been doing this reflection, and it's been a little different. I think it's necessary. We've made this is like the halfway of the year mark. So what are you thinking about going into July and then into just the remainder of 2021?
Man, right now, personally, it is focused on my physical cultivation, like my body now. Like for the listeners, years ago, I used to be a competitive bodybuilder. Like I used to be huge. I was big.
He was thick.
I was eating a lot. I would. That boy was thick. But now I'm at this space where my understanding of being like in shape and being strong is different. Like I don't want to be big anymore. I want to be strong, but I want to still be extremely lean. And so where I'm at mentally with my breathing and the different cultivation methods that I use, I'm now focused on building my body up. So I don't even work out the same. Like I do more like Tai Chi, but I'll hold weights in my hand and I'll hold that stance for an extended period of time. While I'm holding that stance, though, I'm mentally focused on what muscles am I holding right now? Like, what is tense? Like, what am I using? What am I contracting? And it's made it a lot more deeper as I get into exercise and things like that. I'm just now starting, so as we keep doing these mindful reflections, I'll keep the updates going, but I'm really excited to see, once we get to January of next year, what I can accomplish within 6 months.
That sounds really cool.
Thanks.
As we were talking about prior to hopping on here, I'm interested in what your root data will look like after making these changes. It'll be really cool. So yeah, I think for me, this month or going into next month and even the remainder of the year is similar to what you were talking about before, as you observed from what I was describing earlier, but just that I'm continuing to put energy towards what I'm passionate about and towards what I find valuable. And as I've talked about many a times, I keep track of what that is on a daily basis. I write it down every day. And it's just figuring out new and creative ways that I can use my strengths to invest time and energy into those areas. And so that is something that I worked within this past month. So as I talked about a couple mindful reflections ago, I was taking this course called The Science of Well-Being, and it was put on by Yale. And it was an amazing course. And I finished it up this month, actually. So I finished it up in June. And, you know, one of the things that I learned were my character strengths. And it's this test, and it actually, if you're not subscribed to the Balance Period newsletter, highly recommend you sign up. But in that newsletter, we put this test, and we put the link to this test so that you could take it for yourself. But it pretty much, it uses, or they describe them as character strengths. And the top 5 of these 24 character strengths are your signature strengths. And in this course, I was able to find these early on in the process, and the last 4 weeks, it was called the Rewirement Challenge, and we pretty much got to pick of all of the different habits that we learned would actually increase our level of happiness. We got to pick which one we focused the last 4 weeks of the course on. I chose my signature strength. So my top 5, the number 1 of my signature strengths is curiosity, which is something we talk about is valuable on this show all the time. The second is the love of learning. The third is gratitude. The fourth is fairness. And the fifth is hope. And so the fact that those are my character strengths, or signature strengths in this case, I have continued to think about creative ways, and for the past month I have, but continually think about creative ways that I can use those strengths to empower myself and to add value to the different areas of my life that I feel require my time and energy, and that where my time and energy will mean the most. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. I am able to do that in a lot of different ways. Like I said, there's countless opportunities that I'm getting to explore and to continue to develop my signature strengths within the different areas of my life. But that's what I'm going to continue to do. And one of the ways is, so I started streaming this past month. I streamed a couple of times. So I get on there and I pretty much do reflections. I hop on Twitter from back in the day, and I literally just go through some of the things that I've talked about, in my past, and then make connections to today. So it's kind of like this time last year, just in a stream version. But so I'm doing stuff like that, right? That's curiosity. That's the level of learning. I'm curious, and I love learning about myself. So I spend time doing that. A couple other things. So I love to, or back in the day, I used to love to like build Legos and like create stuff. And so I got a couple little like at home science projects from Walmart. Actually, it was a day that I was chilling with Dio and his daughter. We were at Walmart. We were picking her out a toy. She wanted some unicorns, so we got her some unicorns. But I was like, I saw this, and I was like, in my kid, I'm chilling with her all day. I'm kind of like in a kid mind. I'm like, yo, it'll be fun to make some stuff at home. I was like, I think I got money. Yeah, I got money. I'm an adult now. I can buy stuff if I want to.
I don't gotta ask no more. I can get it if I want
this today. So I went and I got one. It's actually like a make your own crystal type science project. So I'm gonna do that. And then the other one, it's like it's called catapults and crossbows. And so it builds like I think 11 different things, but it like shoots little ammo out of it. So I'm just like, I'm going to invest in things like that and then prioritize time to actually build it and do it. And who knows, maybe I'll be doing that on my live stream one of these days, just building something. But yeah, so that is what I'm looking to continue to invest my time and energy into, using my signature strengths to, guide my way as I prioritize how I spend my time with the things that I feel are most valuable in mind every step of the way. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what comes of it. Bro. As I was talking about before, I think where the majority of my attention is going right now, though, is decision making, is which opportunities am I going to accept and do. I think there's going to be some trial and error in this, so I'll probably extend myself a little too thin early on and continue, as the months progress, which we'll talk about, develop and cultivate ways of better managing my own energy as I am helping other people do the same thing. So, yeah.
I mean, I think it's also healthy for us to learn what our limits are, like to push ourselves to the point where we're like, you know what, this is it. Because instead of trying to figure out like, okay, is this enough? Is this enough? When you just go and you're like, okay, I reached this point, that's enough. Not only have you practiced accountability, acceptance, awareness, like you bring so many things that's in that one moment all together to where it's like, run. And when you can't run no more, then be like, okay,
run.
Cool. Just run.
Oh man. Well, yeah. So that is our mindful reflection of June. Nick, is there anything that you want to leave everyone with today?
Hey, you are already whole, and keep enjoying your amazing journey.
Yes.
Oh, also, check out our TikTok social media as well and our Instagram. We're going to be throwing a lot more content for you guys involving breathing, the science behind it, and great stuff like that.
Facts. Definitely follow us on social media. And also, before I share what I have for you, if you enjoy what we post, please share it. That's something that is beneficial to not only our brand continuing to gain visibility, but also the people that you share it with. You're going to send it to them because you think it'll be valuable for them too. So it'll definitely help other people continue to learn, continue to grow, and be the best emotionally intelligent examples that they can be. So from me, as usual, we are unable to fill anyone else's cup if our self-care wallet is empty. I'm switching it up today. So yes, be sure to invest energy into your self-care so that you can share your positive feelings and emotions with the people that you care about most. And as usual, the story, no, what was I about to say? As usual, this happens every time I do this. It's fine. I'm going to edit it out anyway. Y'all don't know, but I'm going to edit it out anyway.
The store?
Yeah. I don't know if I want to talk about the store. Yeah, I'll talk about the store. Why not? The Balance Period store is now open. I'm going to redo that. And lastly, the Balance Period store is now open. As you all know, we did add a couple of new items to the store this past week, so go in and check that out. And as I talked about last time, if you are a subscriber to our newsletter, then you will get exclusive offers and discounts to our store, along with additional resources that go right along with the episodes that we have on a weekly basis. And we also throw in there some mindful moments to take you through the process of breathing and pausing and recognizing the full worth of who you are, where you are, and what you have in any given moment. So thank you all for your time and attention. It is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us today. We look forward to bringing you another episode of the Balance Period podcast next week. Peace.